They thought cursing you would end you. They thought a little poison whispered in your name would make you fade quietly. But all they did was teach you alchemy, how to turn venom into prophecy. You see, they never understood what happens when darkness prays for your downfall. They summon something they can't contain. You've learned to smile while bleeding, to laugh inside lightning, to wear ruin like perfume. Every curse they cast became a crown. Every dagger thrown became part of your armor. You didn't just survive, you metamorphosed. You're the kind of creature that terrifies people who think control is safety. Because you don't obey gravity anymore. You've seen too much. You've died too many symbolic deaths to fear another. You've become the equation that breaks itself. Saint and psychopath, angel and executioner. They can't tell which version of you they're facing until it's too late. You're unpredictable, not because you're chaotic, but because you're free. And freedom, real freedom, is the scariest curse breaker of all. You learn that forgiveness isn't softness, it's strategy. That peace isn't calm, it's control. That love isn't sweet, it's surgical. You became fluent in duality. When they see kindness, they think they can strike. When they see stillness, they think you're asleep. They don't realize still water hides the sharpest reflections. You've stopped trying to prove anything. You've stopped explaining why you glow in the dark. You simply stand there, calm, steady, while their curses ricochet off the invisible shield built from every time you refused to die. That's why they fear your name now. It isn't superstition, it's memory. Every syllable reminds them of the night they tried to bury you and ended up planting something they can't uproot. They whisper that you're dangerous. They call you cursed. But in the quiet between their gossip and their guilt, they pray you never look directly at them again. Because your gaze burns. Because somewhere deep down, they know you're not coming for revenge. You're coming for balance. And balance never misses. You walk with both heaven and hell watching your back, unsure which side you belong to. You don't belong to either. You're the storm they both send when order breaks. Your silence hums with electricity, a warning they finally learned to hear. Every curse they sent came home, humming your name like a hymn. Every rumor carried a little bit of their own fear back to them. You didn't lift a finger, you just kept becoming. And that's what terrifies them most. You don't fight the dark anymore. You consume it. You make it art. You make it useful. You make it irrelevant. So now, when they hear your name, they flinch. Not out of hatred, but recognition. They see what they could have been if they'd chosen transformation over envy. If they'd learned to dance with chaos instead of drowning in it. They'll call you lucky. They'll call you manipulative. They'll call you mad. Let them. Every accusation is confession in disguise. You've become their mirror. And mirrors never lie. They just return what they're shown. And that, right there, is the final twist. The curses never backfired by magic. They backfired because you stopped being a target. You became the reflection. You became the lesson. Now your name moves through rooms like weather. They hear it and feel the temperature drop. They remember how it felt when everything they threw at you came back with interest. They used to chant against you. Now they whisper prayers that you stay far away. Because deep down they know you were never the cursed one. You were the consequence. They remember what they did. They remember every whisper, every smirk, every time they said you wouldn't rise again. And now they can't sleep because they see you in everything. You became the echo in their victories. the shadow in their sunlight. You are the consequence that keeps breathing. They tried to hex you with words, with envy, with silence. But you learned that silence cuts both ways. You turned it into an ally. You learned to let them talk, let them gather in their little circles and spin their stories. And then you showed up, untouched. That's when the fear began. Because curses are supposed to break people, not forge them. You were supposed to disappear. Instead, you became a rumor that walks. Every time your name is mentioned, the room shifts temperature. They glance at doors, at corners, at shadows, as if the universe might have decided to answer back. And maybe it has. Look at you, still standing, still breathing, still smiling that quiet, dangerous smile that says, "I made it." Do you hear that? That's the sound of confusion echoing from the same mouths that once spoke curses over your name. They're whispering, choking on disbelief. Because somehow, against every prediction, every trap, every whispered prayer for your downfall, you rose. You didn't just survive, you evolved. And they can't stand it. You were supposed to crumble under the weight of their lies. You were supposed to disappear into silence while they celebrated their small, temporary victories. But heaven, oh, heaven loves irony. It watched their hatred ripen, then flipped the script. Now the same people who cursed your name have front row seats to your blessing, publicly, painfully, beautifully. You see, you became something they can't explain, a contradiction, an equation that doesn't add up. They saw you broken and assumed that meant finished, but they never understood. Some people are reborn in the ruins. Some souls require chaos to crystallize. They thought the storm would bury you. Instead, it revealed you. Because the thing about light and darkness is, they're not enemies. They're partners in the art of transformation. You needed both. You danced with your demons until they bowed to your discipline. You made peace with your pain until it became your profit. Now you walk through fire like it's your native element, and every step you take burns their doubt into ash. They remember your silence. They thought it meant defeat. But that silence was a forge. While they gossiped, you strategized. While they watched, you healed. While they plotted, you were being prepared. That's the part that haunts them now. The realization that your suffering wasn't wasted. It was engineered. They called it bad luck. You call it training. They called it isolation. You call it refinement. They called it karma. You call it divine alignment. They tried to curse you with words. But words lose power when they hit someone who knows who they are. They forgot. You don't need to fight when your existence itself is a rebuttal. Now they look at you and see a mirror they can't bear to face. Because every blessing that falls on you exposes what's missing in them. Every victory you claim echoes like judgment. And that's not your fault. It's just what happens when authenticity stands next to pretense. You see, the universe doesn't humiliate out of cruelty. It educates through contrast. So heaven didn't just bless you privately. It did it publicly. Because it wanted them to learn. It wanted them to see what happens when someone refuses to break. You've become proof that pain can be currency, that suffering can be a seed, that silence can be louder than screams. And now every door they tried to close on you becomes a stage. Every insult becomes a spotlight. Every curse becomes applause in disguise. They don't clap because they're proud. They clap because they're terrified. They clap because even they can feel the power in your story. And pretending not to notice would make it worse. You didn't need to expose them. Your blessings did. You didn't need revenge. Your presence became prophecy. You didn't need validation. Your survival was the announcement. Now they speak your name carefully, like it's wrapped in thorns. They whisper it with respect they never intended to give, because deep down, they know someone was watching, and that someone made sure justice was poetic. You were never meant to destroy them, just to remind them that light doesn't need permission to shine in dark rooms, that grace looks like madness until the results appear, that every curse, once it runs its course, must report back to its sender. So let them watch. Let them see what faith forged in fire looks like. Let them taste the bitterness of realizing they trained the very beast they now fear. You are not their enemy. You are their mirror. And nothing terrifies a hypocrite more than reflection. So stand tall, smile that quiet, knowing smile again. Because the show isn't over. It's just that now the audience finally understands the plot and your name. It isn't just spoken anymore. It's remembered. You see, the joke was never on you. It was on them. They thought they were orchestrating your downfall, but they were just actors in your awakening. Every curse they sent, a rehearsal for your resurrection. Every betrayal, a spark refining your steel. They played their parts so well, didn't they? The villains in your story, not knowing heaven had written them into your script as catalysts. That's the thing about divine irony. It loves poetic justice. And justice, oh, justice never rushes. It walks slowly, quietly, wearing the mask of coincidence. And one day, when the stage lights shift, they realize the whole time, you were the story. Now they watch you, not because they care, but because they can't look away. You became the contradiction that undid them, the proof that pain can't kill purpose, the living sermon that destiny always collects its debts. You've learned what most people never do, that the cruelest blessing is survival, because survival forces your enemies to witness what they thought was impossible. And watching you thrive, that's their eternal punishment. They wanted to bury you, but the ground rejected you. It said, no, this one belongs above. And so you rose, not gracefully, not saintly, but violently reborn. Because rebirth isn't gentle, it's demolition disguised as healing. You tore down everything soft inside you and rebuilt yourself in the image of everything they feared you'd become. Now look at them, blinking in disbelief, searching for logic where only faith exists. Because that's what really eats at them, isn't it? The unexplainable. The divine math that doesn't add up. How the one they cursed now walks in light. How the one they mocked now moves with power. How every hex became holy ground under your feet. You've become something dangerous, not angry, not vengeful, just aware. And awareness is lethal. You see through people now. You hear the intent behind every compliment. You smell deceit like smoke. You move like someone who's already seen the end and knows they can't lose. That's why your calm scares them, because calmness is the weapon of someone who's already won. You could destroy them, but you don't. You could expose them, but you won't. Because real power doesn't need an audience. It already owns the stage. And here's the delicious paradox. They wanted to curse you in secret. Now they bless you by accident every time they mention your name. Their gossip is your gospel. Their envy is your advertisement. Their hatred, a hymn that heaven remixes into your elevation. You've become divine theater, a living testament that God, fate, the universe, whatever you call it, has a dark sense of humor. Because you've become the living contradiction everyone secretly envies, holy yet haunted, damaged yet divine, unforgiven yet chosen. That's your final evolution. The duality they'll never comprehend. You're not the hero, you're not the villain, you're the warning, the one they tell stories about. The one who touched darkness and didn't flinch, who met betrayal and bowed only to wisdom, who let pain carve temples into their soul until heaven moved in. So when they whisper your name now, let them. Let the sound of it shake their conscience. Let it echo like thunder across the halls of everything they pretended to control. Because they cursed your name, and heaven crowned it. They buried your hope, and destiny planted it. They mocked your faith, and God turned it into spectacle. And now, every time they see you shine, they'll remember the exact moment they tried to dim you, and failed. Because blessings, my dear, are loud when they land on the undeserving, and you were never meant to blend in. You were designed to haunt them with proof. So smile, that same slow, dangerous smile. The one that says, I didn't get lucky, I got aligned. And when they look at you with that trembling confusion, just remember this. They wanted your ending, but instead, they got your origin story.